Well, you could argue that the real base of opportunity in the Australian market is obviously the businesses that face the UK or have that exposure.
Matt Felsman, welcome back to Dukascopy TV. It's a pleasure to receive you again.
Thanks, Nat. Good to be here.
No worries at all. Okay, so let's start with some of the post-Brexit action that we've been seeing. ASX markets, obviously we've seen some really wide swings so far, but is the local share market past the worst of it?
Look, I think you could argue the short answer, might be yes. There's not much that we don't know now that we didn't know, say, on Monday or over the weekend. However, in a more balanced or sort of longer answer would be that we still, it's still quite early days. We need to let the dust settle a little bit before we have a really clear understanding. There's no historical precedent for the effect on business and economy for a country leaving the EU. And we've only really had sort of two or so real sessions to break this down in the US and the UK. And there's no clear trend there. So short answer, yes, we have seen probably the brunt of it, but long answer, it's probably a little bit more complicated at this stage still.
Obviously, we saw huge swings, not only domestically here in Australia, but also in global markets. I mean, really, is this because we got it pretty wrong kind of in that lead up?
Yeah, it's funny sort of reflecting now, but what became clear is that the markets were focusing on the odds rather than the opinion polls as to where the decision would move. The reason they were doing this is because in the UK, in the Scottish independence referendum and the last general election in the UK, these were more accurate, focusing on the betting odds rather than the opinion polls. But what we sort of have noticed in hindsight is that while there was a lot more money and dollar amounts skewing the odds for the stay vote in the Brexit referendum on the odds, 75% of the actual votes, be it in lower denominations, money-wise, were actually on the leave vote. So short answer is that the markets were following the money, and the money was wrong.
So, I mean, obviously we've seen huge volatility and are likely to see a lot of volatility, but with that volatility also becomes opportunity. Obviously, we've already seen, stocks such as CYBG, those with exposure to the UK market have tanked so far. But are there still sort of those opportunities there? Where are you seeing sort of investors headed?
Well, you could argue that the real base of opportunity in the Australian market is obviously the businesses that face the UK or have that exposure. We see probably the banks and money managers as having one of the largest risk versus reward opportunities. That being because they have been hammered so sharply over the last few days. While that's valid, we don't think the UK economy is going to fall over anytime soon. The banks aren't going to collapse. So we've identified an opportunity in Clydesdale Bank, which is listed on the Australian exchanges, CYB, down around 30% for the last three sessions. Very strong support for the stock from a technical basis around the $4 mark. And we actually picked up some today, Tuesday, at about $3.86 or 87. So yeah, that's a live recommendation that we've bought today.
So what happens next then if we consider investor sentiment, if we consider implications for monetary policy perhaps? What's our sort of next step?
Well, at this stage, I think the markets will revert back to lower interest rates for longer. One poll or one set of numbers that a lot of attention hasn't really been given to is the fact that the market and the futures market for the funds rate is actually showing a 0% chance that the US Federal Reserve will keep increasing rates for the remainder of this year. And it's actually showing a 10% chance that they might cut rates. And while that's probably unlikely to happen, unless something dramatic changes, the sentiment of lower interest rates for longer is obviously very supportive for markets.
Matt, always a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Matt Felsman there, bringing us his expert insights into what we can expect next from the Australian share market post that Brexit fallout. That's all we've got time for right now. I'm Natalie MacDonald. You've been watching Sydney Direct on Dukascopy TV. Goodbye for now.